Herman. Excuse me, my throat went dry there. Herman Cain is with me, former CEO of Godfather's Pizza and strong potential presidential candidate for 2012, representing the Republican Party. Herman, I have to do one thing here. I have a good friend of mine on the line amongst a whole lot of folks who want to talk to you. She is at work. She have to go back to her office, but she want to just talk to you real fast. So I want to put her on, if you don't mind. Della,
I don't mind at all.
Della from Richmond, Virginia. Good morning, Della. You're on with Herman Cain.
Good morning, Jesse. Good morning, Mr. Cain. A pleasure
Good morning,
to talk
Della.
to you. Always a pleasure to talk to Jesse.
I appreciate you, Della.
Thank you so much, Mr. Cain. There are three conservatives who happen to be black. The Waves of Gray fellow, Michael Steele, and Alan West. And of the three of them, Alan West couldn't wait to join the Black Caucus. Michael Steele, obviously, not that strong. And the Waves of Gray fellow is pretty weak also. So my question to you is, would you be willing to call the Congressional Black Caucus what it is and ask that they disband, because they're just asking for preferential treatment in my eye, and they use their color to promote that agenda?
Oh, absolutely, and I have done that in the past because, they have outwardly made comments that I think is an embarrassment in terms of they feel like they're going to get the black vote. They are looking for preferential treatment rather than, balanced and equal treatment. But with respect to Representative Alan West joining the Black Caucus, he and I have had a conversation about that. It's not that he believes in the methods, the tactics, or the objectives of the Black Caucus. He wanted to say, okay, I'll take a seat on the inside and see what I hear and see if I can't get them to change their perspective on what they're supposed to represent. And if they don't, then he's not going to kowtow to the way they do things. He looked at it as an opportunity to learn more about what their thinking is. But you're absolutely right.
But that seems like benign approval. You know what I mean? Like, you would think that he would stand up and say this is not a good thing.
Well, but see, Della, stop and think for a minute. Until you know more about their thinking and until you have more of the facts, I wouldn't consider it benign thinking. So I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt after he is there for a while. Now, let's suppose after 1 year, the Black Caucus makes a big ruckus about something where they want some more preferential treatment, and he still is a part of the organization. I would draw the same conclusion that you would have drawn. But at this point, I think he's on a fact-finding mission.
Well, time will tell with that.
Time will tell.
But they've made it pretty clear.
Yep. That I agree with you based upon some of the things that you and I and others have observed. But I don't condone Representative West for at least wanting to, take a closer look.
Sounds like he's gotten thrown in the briar patch.
We'll pull him out. We got his back.
I thought.
Thank you, Della.
I thought it would be more powerful if Alan West had said, "No, I will not join the Congressional Black Caucus because there's a double standard in America, and that is you can't have a Congressional White Caucus because people call it racist. Yeah. So while we're allowing a Congressional Black Caucus, and I thought he would make a better point that way rather than joining them."
That's a good point. That would have been another way to approach it.
Yeah.
I agree. I also want to say it's not just the black conservatives. I have yet to see any white politician stand up and call it that either. So I'm not just focusing on that. I have yet to see any politician stand up and say this is not a good thing to do, like you just said. So I'll wait, and I look forward to hearing more from you. And always a pleasure, Jesse.
Well, please check out HermanCain.com. But the reason that you don't have white politicians standing up and calling it the way you and I and Jesse would call it is because they would immediately be labeled racist. They would be attacked. That's the other double standard, as you know, that goes on in this country. And, even with the Tea Party, where I have been, outspoken and a frequent speaker, and with the whole movement that's been going on over the country, they wanted to try and label the Tea Party movement as racist, when in fact I haven't seen any racism there. It gets back to that name calling that Jess and I talked about earlier. So there again, it's a double standard, Della. But thank you so much for your call.
All right. Thank you, Della.
Appreciate All right, Jesse. Bye.
Bye now. Let me ask, before I go back to the phones, you and I are not afraid of the name calling. We both love what's right. We keep pushing forward as a result of loving what's right. Do you think white folks should do the same thing? Don't be concerned about the name calling, but do the right thing anyway?
I think that they should, but here is the disadvantage that they have, Jesse. The mainstream media is mostly liberal.
Yeah.
And they will just crucify them at any smack of anything that they could make it appear racist, even if it isn't. This is why some politicians and office holders walk so timidly in criticizing Barack Obama.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to be slapped with the racism charge. Because, see, the mainstream media will be right there fanning those flames. So rather than throw themselves out there in that briar patch, they tend to try to be more politically correct.
Yeah.
Now, you and I, we don't have to try and be politically correct. We call it like it is, period.
Yep. That's right. I want to just finish up that conversation that we were having before, because I think that is so powerful. In that I asked about your entrepreneur spirit. It sounds as though it came from the influence of your father. You were about to tell me about a call you made just before calling the show.
Yes, just before the show, I was talking with one of my staff members because we were getting ready to shoot a mini documentary, as we move closer to making a decision to run for president.
Right.
And he was telling me to bring in some pictures, and I just happened to mention to him, I said, I know I got a couple of pictures in my yearbook, and one picture in there is a picture of me posing as having been voted by my classmates as most likely to succeed. Now, they saw something in high school.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
And so it must have been just part of my nature. I've never been afraid of a challenge. I've always been asked to step up in leadership positions, even if I didn't go seek them.
Yeah.
So even early on in my educational pursuits, people saw something in me, and I didn't know how to quantify it, but I take it all the way back to that same kind of spirit that I saw in my dad. My dad was determined. He was going to achieve his American dreams. And you know what? He did. And when he left that small farm in Tennessee for the first time when he was 18 years old, Jesse, he left with the only kind of equity that he had, sweat equity.
Yeah.
And, man, he maximized it to the hilt. And if some of these young black Americans would focus more on that, and white Americans too, if they would focus more on what they can do and not what you can't do, focus on what you do have and not what you don't have, don't focus on what other folks have, get out of this class warfare mindset, they would have a much better chance of staying focused on making their lives and their dreams come true.
We're going to take a break, but you also show how important it is to have a father and a mother in the home. Your dad influenced you, and that's what fathers are supposed to do.
Yes.
We're going to take a break. We're coming back for your calls, folks. Everybody and their mama want to talk to Herman Cain. Back in a moment.